Good day. Good day, dear Commission members. Good day, dear participants and the audience. So we are continuing the 9th meeting, the 3rd stage of the competition for administrative positions in the SAP, interviews on correspondence to the integrity criteria. So today we have invited Mr. Yarovey Serhiy and Mr. Yaromenok Roman. So right now we have Mr. Yarovey Serhiy Alexandrovich. Dear Serhiy Alexandrovich, I will announce the commission composition. We have Andrei Gudjal, Katerina Koval, Yevgen Sobol, Vyacheslav Navrotsky, Olena Busol, Roman Kuybida, Bogdan Romaniuk, Nona Tsotsoria, and Thomas Firestone. Dear commission members, do you have self-recusals according to our regulation? No self-recusals. Dear candidate, dear Serhiy Alexandrovich, do you have recusals? No recusals from the candidate. According to our regulation and methodology, we are evaluating the candidates for the criterion of integrity, expenses and income, lifestyle, professional ethic, political neutrality, other violations of integrity according to our regulations and methodology. Yarovey Serhiy, born in 1982. Sorry? 1982. I'm sorry. Never been brought to criminal responsibility or to administrative responsibility for corruption violations. Graduated Yaroslav Mudry National Law Academy, Military Legal Faculty, Specialist Diploma, and National Legal Academy of Yaroslav Mudry, Military Legal Department, Officer of the Military Unit of Tactical Level. You are a specialist or a master? I have a specialist degree, so at that year, 2004, there wasn't master's degree. 2004, 2007, Military Prosecutor's Office, Assistant to the Prosecutor, up to 2010, Military Prosecutor's Office of Odessa Region, Senior Assistant to the Prosecutor, Military Head of the Investigative Department in the Military Prosecutor's Office until 2015. Also, Head of the Department in the Military Prosecutor's Office, 2015-2018, Military Prosecutor's Office of Southern Region, Head of the Department, Prosecutor of the Department, 2018, Military Prosecutor's Office of the Anti-Terroristic Forces, Prosecutor in a Department, 2018-2020, Military Prosecutor's Office of the United Forces, Head of the Department, and in 2020, Specialized Prosecutor's Office of the Unified Military Forces, Prosecutor in a Department, Acting Department Head. Almost so from June, from the 1st of June, my position was changed. So I have brought the original order about the change in my position. So please give us additional information besides what I gave. And please tell us about your motivation to participate. Thank you for this possibility. As for my career, you have indicated everything. I would like to say also that I began not in the Odessa region, but in the Odessa Harrison. This is a local prosecutor's office. So up to 2010, I was in Odessa Harrison, and then I was transferred to higher level prosecutor's office of the region. From 2004, I'm working in the military prosecutor's office. It has been reformed. It is also specialized for military area. For more than 3 years, I have been doing the tasks in the regions of the anti-terroristic operation and the operation of the United Forces for continuous and good service in the prosecution I used to serve on all the direction of the prosecution. My work usually concerned procedural guidance, pre-trial investigation, and support of the public prosecution. But I also have the skills in other spheres of the prosecution activities, supervision of the operative work, supervision of the fulfillment of court resolutions. I also have experience in representing the interests of the state in court. Also, I have extensive experience in fighting corruption and criminal violations of organized crime. I was the first prosecutor who used the new criminal procedural legislation. I fulfilled special tasks to disclose organized criminal groups by using undercover agents in the criminal environment. And also with my participation, we started pre-trial investigations in corruption crimes, and those materials served to create the first anti-corruption agencies like NABU and SAP. And I also actively participated in the first real investigations regarding illegal academic activities on the temporarily occupied territories of Ukraine. We detained for the first time ships for illegal visiting Crimea, and relevant suspects were brought to administrative and criminal responsibility, and we confiscated funds to the budget of the state. For the time of my service, I have many times been awarded by the leadership of the prosecutor's office, the general prosecutor's office, and regional prosecutor's offices, with which we jointly perform the tasks. I also have a state award for the military service in Ukraine. I believe that today in the society there is a great demand for justice. And I believe that the SAPO has a big potential which hasn't been yet realized in this direction. And I would like very much to use my skills and knowledge to this, to contribute to this work. So this is my motivation to participate in the competition, to bring benefits to the society. I believe that I would be able to do on an administrative position in the SAPO. Katerina Koval, thank you. I'm interested to hear your opinion about. So, do you support creation of specialized military courts? Response. There are two sides to this opinion. On one hand, I was a witness how those courts used to work, then how they were liquidated. So I know how to support public prosecution in military courts and as well as in general jurisdiction courts. So in my opinion, there is no big difference between them. And I believe that the specific character of military legislation is that almost all the legal relations have clear regulation. So in general, it's not very difficult to become familiar with military regulations, because almost all the military relations are strictly regulated. So it's not very difficult to use law. For example, if you compare it to the tax legislation. So if the courts of general jurisdiction can sort out other legal spheres which are also rather difficult in implementation of law, so the general jurisdiction court can also cope with the military crimes as well. But taking into account their workload, if we take into account that we don't have so many military prosecutors in numbers, and they need to support public accusation, they need to get relevant sanctions from the courts, we have to serve on big territories. not like territorial prosecutors. We have larger areas, geographic areas. We need to cooperate with many different courts. So technically, there are big difficulties for us. So for us, it would be easier to cooperate with one court rather than 10. But from the point of view of efficiency, of performance, personally, for me, I don't have any complaints. I think that judges are really capable to sort out the military legislation. Katarina Koval, I'm sorry. The chat says that there is only translation in the online broadcasting because the audience doesn't hear neither candidate nor commission, only the translation. So we have two broadcasts. We have two channels that are broadcast at the same time, Russian and English and Ukrainian. So, dear audience, you can choose Ukrainian channel if you want. Thank you for the answer. You have the materials of your profile. We have received certain documents. You have passed a special background check, a polygraph test. We have materials from NAPC, NABU, Inspectorate General. We have sent you a questionnaire. We have your answers. We have some petitions from the public organizations, but still commission members may have some questions to you. I personally wanted to ask you one thing. Maybe other commission members, according to the official investigation, because I'm always asking about possible disciplinary responsibility and commendations, so you have a very good, impressive list. You have an impressive list of commendations. The highest award is the state award for the military service of Ukraine. I got it for prosecuting in the case of contraband of cultural values. So some cultural artifacts. These were 17 paintings that people were trying to transfer beyond the borders of Ukraine. So we stopped this crime, and that's why I was awarded. But due to the efficiency of my work, almost every year I have been given different incentives. The last one was from the current Prosecutor General of Ukraine. So in the previous year, due to one criminal proceeding, we discovered a group of persons, a group of suspects in the area of the operation of the unified forces, which organized at the contact line, they organized illegal transfer of currency, of money, through the borderline between the occupied territories by means of bribing military officers who had to protect this region. So with the risk of being shot by a sniper, we were conducting this special operation, and we also had assistance from the special operation forces. And for doing the work in such difficult condition, we were incentivized. And I also got an award from the defense minister. I was awarded with a gun due to investigation of a criminal proceeding for embezzlement of budget funds, which had to be used for building accommodation for military officers. Another question from Katarina Koval. I can see that in the year 17, there was a disciplinary complaint to the Qualification Disciplinary Commission of the prosecutors, but the commission closed the proceeding because there was no violation, but the General Inspectorate referred to the Higher Council of Justice, and the Higher Council of Justice didn't change the decision of the Qualification Commission, but you were demoted by one rank. I think this was the case in the 2017. due to violations in the 2015 when a criminal case was so that the head of the prosecution department did not duly supervise the work of his subordinates. So was this the period when you used to work? As far as I understand, this was the year 2015. Military Prosecutor's Office of Southern Region, Katerina Koval, can you give explanations about this complaint and why the Inspectorate General referred to the Higher Council of Justice? As far as I understand, that the Higher Council of Justice did not change the decision. However, please explain for the public, for the audience. Thank you. I had provided a response in the questionnaire you can be brief if you want. So during the year 2015-2017, the Military Prosecutor's Office of the Southern Region, where I had to serve, so they were doing a number of investigations which were sensitive for the elites of the Odessa region. We investigated the fact of illegal provision of land plots, of different corruption crimes, of embezzlement, of budget funds, and we have brought to criminal responsibility the head of the local unit of police. We have brought to criminal responsibility police officers, prosecution officers, local self-government officers, and controlling agencies. And of course, that our work arose pressure. So they were trying to pressurize us using mass media. They were sending unsubstantiated claims against us, which were later closed. They were trying to do smear campaigns in the mass media against us, and there were different, even serious attempts. In the April of the year 17, we used the information about the corruption crime, which was committed by a group of local self-government officers. We did urgent actions, operative actions. We detained certain people. And when I was returning home on my car at 3 o'clock at night, I was stopped by police officers. They told me that I was speeding, and I asked those police officers to show me the technical data, because I almost never exceed the speed. So then they told me that they have information that I was drunk driving. So I was offered to pass the express test on drugger. Of course, I agreed. I couldn't have refused. So I passed the drugger test, and then police officers told me that it had positive results. Of course, I was surprised, not a bit surprised. I asked them to take me to medical examination, to a hospital. Then they refused. And then the police officers told me that they will draw a minutes against me on administrative offense against me. So of course I understood that I would be, so they wouldn't allow me to drive the car. So I asked my wife to come and to drive the car. So we were waiting for the administrative protocol. They gave me the minutes, the protocol. They asked me to sign it. When I started to write my own comments in the protocol, that the police officers refused me to take a relevant medical examination. There were no witnesses, which is obligatory. And then police officers told me that I was not cooperating. They withdrew the protocol from my hands, and they made another protocol about refusal to cooperate with a police officer. So of course, after that, The first thing that I did, I went to a narcology clinic to pass the examination for being drunk or intoxication. But at the same time, I was not able to do this because the narcology clinics only works upon request of law enforcement. But if I referred to them as a private person, I couldn't do this. I had to wait until the 9 o'clock in the morning. In the morning, I passed the test. The test showed that I didn't have any alcohol in my blood, but more than 3 hours have passed from the moment when I was stopped on the road. Of course, I couldn't use this test as an evidence. Of course, I took some steps so that the administrative materials could go to court as fast as possible to be considered in court. And I also took as much steps as possible to ensure objective court consideration. So the police officers were summoned to court to testify about the protocol. Also, the witnesses were summoned to court, which were not, in fact, in the field at the scene, and they didn't come to court. And the court found that the materials were falsified, that they were forged, because the police officers were given one drugger, one express test for intoxication, and the administrative materials indicated a check, a receipt from another device which was not given to those police officers. And then the time, the weather conditions were wrong in this receipt, in this so the court made a decision that there was no administrative violation in my actions. At the same time, I took no steps for judicial protection of my reputation in spite of this court resolution because of two reasons. The first one, I decided to work in the public service, so I understood that the criticism against me as a public officer, they are much more narrow compared to others, and I have smaller limits to protect my private rights compared to other persons. And also taking into account that the level of trust to the law enforcement system and to the judiciary is very low. So I understood whatever court resolution in my favor I would get, the society wouldn't perceive it as exonerating. And maybe the public would believe that this was only a manifestation of corporate protection by law enforcement agencies of one another. So in order to restore my reputation, I decided that this can be done only by means of efficient, continuous, long-term work. So I was, according to my own consent, I was sent to the anti-terroristic operation area where I was actively working. As for the disciplinary penalty, unfortunately, my former leadership of the military prosecution did not believe me about the circumstances that happened, about which I have just told you. So they didn't wait for the court consideration. They just informed me that I have a choice. I have an option whether I continue denying my violation, and then I would be just fired without any court rulings. Or the second option, I agree, I concede that I made a violation, but then they allow me to continue my service. I didn't have enough time to think over those options, so I agree. I considered. Of course, I made my explanations and I stated all the circumstances, I told that I was driving a car, that I was stopped. I passed an express test for intoxication, and the test showed that I was intoxicated. And due to this, I was brought to disciplinary responsibility as a military officer upon the petition of the higher military prosecutor. So the defense minister decided to put a penalty on me, but after the court consideration, after the court conclusion that there was no violation on my side, so I was serving in the anti-terroristic area. So my line manager was asking the main military prosecutor to cancel this penalty, but unfortunately, those petitions were not even registered in the general prosecutor's office. So that's how it's happened. Katarina Koval, thank you. So I can see that the Primorsky District Court of Odessa closed the case because of the absence of violation, and then the proceeding was closed due to the time limitations for administrative penalty. I'm sorry, this concerns two other protocols. So this was about my protocol that I refused to cooperate with police officers. So those protocols were sent by the police officers to the court after the time limitations have passed. So I sent a petition to court in which I asked, first of all, I asked to make full evaluation of the materials, that I don't agree that the proceeding should be closed due to time limitations. I asked to continue consideration of the case. I indicated my address. So the first court did not consider those protocols for more than 6 months, despite the fact that they were sent to court after the time limitations for administrative penalty. After that, I found out that those protocols were closed. I only found out that from the court resolution. So the court did not summon me. So those protocols were cancelled by the second composition of the court. So the first composition of the court just so the second composition of the court didn't consider those materials and closed the case due to time limitations. Katarina Koval, we did some analysis, and in the YouTube, we found that the law enforcement officers do this many times, do this very often in relation to the prosecutors. There is also a case when Mr. Grigorashenko, investigator, was detained in Odessa region. He was accused of drunk driving. So we can see the trends, disturbing trends in your region. Trends when the law enforcement are pressurizing investigators. Response, I can't judge, I can't be very sure, and I can't connect different cases. Grigoriev, not Grigorashenko as far as I remember. Katerina Koval, it was Grigorashenko. So the case was closed, and the police has started some cases. Response, yes. Some cases were started according to my documents, but then they were closed because the administrative violation of a protocol, it is considered only as a statement of accusation, but only court can decide what to use. So the court rehabilitated me. So this protocol shouldn't have made any negative impact. So in these circumstances, those criminal proceedings were closed, but I know, and I have explained this in the questionnaire, I know that the officers that were drawing up the protocols against me, they no longer work in the internal affairs. And the head of the department of the patrol police, he also doesn't work any longer. Katarina Koval, Please tell us so that everybody understands regarding this case. Was this a single case when you were brought to responsibility or when the protocol was drawn up? Response: I had two protocols against me on Article 130. So the first time was in 2016. In other circumstances, in 2016, I came on a day off. I went to the Arcadia district. So I was living in Odessa. I left my car on a parking lot. I was with my friends with a cafe. I drank some beer with my friends. I left my car at the parking lot, but because there were some documents in my car at night, I opened the door of the car. I turned the ignition key to turn on the light because I needed my documents in the car. At that time, police officers came up. I explained them the situation, but they wanted to draw up the minutes, and then I had to prove my case in court. But at that time, in 2016, those minutes were referred to the military prosecutor's office because I explained that I was an officer of a military prosecutor's office. So they sent it to begin a disciplinary proceeding in the military prosecutor's office. There was an internal investigation. There were recordings of video cameras on the parking lot. So it was confirmed, it was proven that I was not driving the car. So the court decided that there were no disciplinary violation on my part. And the patrol police unit was informed about that, and the administrative materials was sent to the police. Then the police sent the same materials to the court, and then the court, because of the time limitations, the court didn't even consider the case. It closed the case, administrative case, because of time limitations. But those circumstances, as much as I believe, are not connected, because in the year 16, the patrol police was just created, and the police officers they were doing patrols in the place of recreation. They were trying to catch drivers who are driving intoxicated. So probably they just caught me during that time. Katarina Koval, sometimes they are trying to catch prosecutors and investigators as well. In 2017, this was quite another story. As for me, I don't have any claims against police officers in the year 2016. Yes, I drank some alcohol and I sat at the wheel of my car to get the documents. So they suspected that I wanted to drive, that I was violating. They drew up the minutes, and then I proved that I didn't make any violation. This was a standard practice, but in the year 17, this was another story. Katarina Koval, thank you. As for the car, in the declaration of the year 18 to 20, there is no information about value of the car, which belongs to your wife, Cherokee. So manufactured in 2014. So it belongs to the father of my wife. He bought it on an auction, as it is done by many people right now, because he is working for many years. He knows how to repair cars, unlike me. He also works in the military prosecutor's office, right? He was a colonel. No, it was my father. But my wife's father, he works in the... My brother works in the police. I'm sorry. Parents of my wife are not public servants. They are usual people, usual workers. My wife's father works in the construction sphere, so he was repairing this car by himself. He was selecting this car. He was ordering this car. But of course, as for the customs clearance, somebody helped him, a customs broker helped him according to a power of attorney. I indicated that I know only approximate value of the car. As far as I know, the customs value was fined $5,500 and about $3,000 were used for customs clearance. And of course, he had to spend some money for spare parts to restore this vehicle. But I understand if I indicate in the declaration a certain number about the value of this car, I will need to prove it with documents. But as I have no documents to prove it, and the father of my wife doesn't have the documents as well because he was not doing the customs clearance, so he doesn't have the customs declaration. I don't even know that he knows what it is. So in the absence of clear information about the value, I was not indicating it. Katarina Koval, I'm sorry, Sergey Alexandrovich, because in the profile it says that your father Yarovey Alexander Alexandrovich, but the owner is Grigoriev Boris Ivanovich. Another question. I'm sorry. In 2016, you were representing accusation in a high-profile case for accusing Mykola Romanchuk from the administration of bribe of $90,000 for extracting resources, subsoil resources, not only in the year 16, but in the previous year as well. I was returned to this case according to the decision of the prosecutor general because it was protracted in court. So the prosecutor general's office decided to include me in this case once again. And today we have exoneration, but we are appealing against this. That was about Romanchuk. It was reported in the mass media. So now you are appealing against the acquittal. Yes, I don't agree with the acquittal as a prosecutor, but I don't want to comment in more details because of the ethical standards. Thank you. Any other questions, dear colleagues, to the candidate? Please, Thomas.
Yes, thank you very much. I just wanted to clarify some of your answers to Ms. Koval's questions. It looks like there is a video on YouTube of your traffic stop. I think it was April 21, 2017. And it looks like in that video, you told the police officers you weren't driving the car, and then you resisted when they tried to get you to sign something. Is that, it's hard to tell because of the video. It looks like you're almost fighting with them and fighting with a female police officer. But please tell me if I've misunderstood what was on the video. I just want to make sure that I'm understanding it correctly.
I will explain. This is the case that I was trying to explain. In fact, what you saw when a female started to scream on the video, so it was sort of the video camera, the body cam, it was covered on purpose at that moment. This was a moment of provocation when this woman started shouting that I was doing something wrong. I can't even do any forceful actions against a woman. My wife was present in the car at that time.
And when you said that you weren't driving the car, was that true or was it not true?
I was not saying that I was not driving. I was not saying that I was not driving. Of course, no. So did you see the video, Thomas?
I did.
Probably I was not drunk driving. I was not intoxicated at that time.
Okay, thank you.
Які ще запитання будуть, колеги?
Any other questions, dear colleagues? Nona, please.
Будь ласка, Нона.
Please, Nona.
Yes, thank you for your detailed explanation. I also want to go back to the video, and I had an opportunity to review this video, and I want to double check one point. During this intervention here, you mentioned that it was you who asked them to check your alcohol level, but as far as I recall in the video, it's policeman who is approaching you and using technology, and he says in the video that this exceeds 9 times the allowable limit. So are you challenging the video, or which fact is correct? Are you saying that the video is fortified? Have you ever questioned this? So I just want to understand, because some of the facts that you described and recorded the video, they don't match for me, at least. Thank you.
Ще раз повторюсь.
I would like to repeat myself once again. Police officers offered me to pass the express test, and I passed this test, the drugger test. The police officer told me that the result says that I was allegedly intoxicated. And as you say, the norm was exceeded several times. So yes, on video, yes, it is on video. They told this indeed. But I did not agree with the result of the tester. I asked them to take me to a medical clinic for testing, so that I would be tested not by a drugger, but by means of medical analysis. And then the officers refused to do this. So he was asked to be taken to a medical clinic, not to use a drugger, but to use medical analysis. Any other questions?
Чути нас?
Can you hear?
Sorry, I want to continue with this video. Sorry.
Будь ласка, будь ласка.
Yes, please.
This is short video, and sometime at the end of the video, it is recorded that you took actually the protocol of administrative violation, and the policeman tries to get it back. So can you explain what was this about? Why it happened? Why how it is recorded? Explain this scene, please, because I am not quite sure that I understand this.
Я можу навіть його
Of course, I can, if you want, I can do even an experiment, a field experiment. I was sitting on the back seat of my car. In front of me was my wife. She was waiting for the end of this procedure. So on a tablet, they showed me the protocol against me. So they wanted me to sign the protocol. But I wanted to include my explanations in the protocol, because they refused to take me to a medical clinic by means of taking samples of blood. And also during the protocol, there were no witnesses. It is obligatory to have witnesses. They didn't explain me my rights and so on. So I was trying to include this into the protocol. At the same time, the female police officers, she saw that I was doing this, and then she started this performance. They closed deliberately the body cam. They closed the camera on purpose, and then the female officer started screaming that I was doing something wrong, and then 2 other officers took me out of the car and they put me laying on the ground. And of course, they took away the protocol, and I didn't have any possibility to include my own explanations into the protocol. After that, they drew up another protocol against me for fighting police officers and for minor hooliganism, because they alleged that I damaged the protocol. However, the protocol was damaged by the police officers, but they closed the camera so that nobody could see that.
Скажіть, а ви проходили атестацію?
Katerina Koval, did you pass the attestation? Yes. So, was this question considered during attestation? Yes, of course, I passed the attestation successfully. Then you received a letter of award from the Prosecutor General's office. Any other questions? Dear colleagues, Nona, do you have any other questions?
Да, будь ласка.
Yes, please.
Thank you. In the files, there is information about the case in relation with Mr. Zinchenko, and he's actually saying that there was some request for illegal benefits. So, can you explain this case, please?
Ну, дивіться, смотри, на сьогоднішній
Look, as of today, there is a criminal proceeding against an investigator of the SBU who allegedly was soliciting the Russian citizen, Mr. Zinchenko. He was soliciting bribe from him, and today it is considered by a court. Of course, I can't give you any details because it hasn't been finished. I can tell you about Mr. Zinchenko if you want.
Okay, thank you. Of course, I'm not going to ask you about the pending case, but what is your status in this case? Are you a witness or any stand? Do you have any stand in this criminal proceedings?
у справі щодо слідчого мене допитували як свідка,
In this
оскільки
case, I was interviewed as a witness because it appeared, in my opinion, this case is a tool of the defense. Zinchenko is an accused party. He was investigated, and I was the prosecutor. Then Zinchenko makes a petition that this investigator commit a criminal violation against him. Then there is investigator. There are 3 prosecutors. So we all were united into one group. That we were, as far as I understand, there was intelligence used against us, intelligence operations. They were trying to check this information. And as far as I understand, there were no claims against us as prosecutors. Me and my subordinates, we were interviewed as witnesses in this criminal case, whether we know about some illegal contacts between the SBU investigator in this case, contacts with the accused party, Mr. Zinchenko. And of course, we didn't know any such things.
Чи порушували ви права гарантії адвокатської?
Have you ever violated the rights of lawyers? No, I never. I have never. I'm trying not to violate any rights of lawyers, but you know, we are all people. Maybe I could have done some mistakes during my service, but not on purpose. Of course, no. On the contrary, I believe that we need to comply with the maximum standards of the defense party, and this is a key aspect to success. Any other questions, please? Because we have 10 minutes. Maybe we need to extend times. Nona, do you have any questions?
Чи є запитання, колеги?
Any other questions, dear colleagues? Роман Куйбіда. Сергій Олександрович. Let's go back again to 2017. So you gave written explanations during the official investigation. And in these explanations, it says that you and two of your colleagues at night, approximately at approximately 3 o'clock at night, you were eating pizza and drinking whiskey. You consumed no more than 100, 200 milliliters. Can you confirm that or not? Response: yes, these were my explanations. Those circumstances are not true, but I told you why I explained it this way. So these are untrue explanations. Yes, it was a self-accusation, but I have told you why I did this. Because for me, it was more important to stay at my work, because at that time, it was the only source of my existence. I didn't have the right to have a pension. I don't have a residential property, so I was valuing my job. So that's why I agreed. Of course, now I regret this. This was my lesson. And I was punished not for violating the traffic rules, but because I subdued to the pressure of my leadership. So yes, this was a good lesson for me. So today I never concede if I believe that I'm right. Roman Kuybida. I'm reading the court resolution of Odessa District Administrative Court that at the scene of the crime, you told the police officers you provided them the incorrect information, knowingly incorrect information, that you were not driving. At the same time, during the court, you said that this was only your position for defense, and you confirmed that you were driving. I will try to quote. So the court says that in spite of the written explanation, during the internal investigation, taking into account the video recording, you, at the scene of the crime, you told the police officers the incorrect information. So you were saying that you were not driving the vehicle. At the same time, during the court hearing, you said that this was exclusively your position of defense, and you confirmed the fact that you were driving the vehicle. So could you explain if this court resolution is true, is correct? Response: it was the administrative court. If you saw it, I appealed against this court ruling, including because of the wrong evaluation of the evidence, including the wrong evaluation of my testimony in the court. And today I told you that I didn't that I didn't say that I wasn't driving the car. I was driving the car, but I was not intoxicated. I didn't agree to the resolution of the first instant court. I appealed against the decision. The Court of Appeals did not support me, but after the decision of the Court of Appeals, the time of the disciplinary proceeding, the disciplinary punishment ended. It was 1 year. So I decided not to continue this case in the cassation instance because I believed I saw no sense in continuing this case, although I didn't agree. Roman Kuybida, thank you. Katerina Koval, any other questions, dear colleagues, or can we move on to the discussion? Богдан Романюк.
Сергію Олександровичу, я хотів би попросити вас.
I would like to ask you to specify. So this parking lot where you left your car. So you say You sat into the car to take your documents only. What was this parking lot? So why did you leave your car there? Was it temporary just to meet your friends? Yes, this is a usual toll parking lot. Paid park question. So do you usually leave your car there or not? Response: no, I just left my car there because I went to the Arcadia district to meet my friends. It's about 15 minutes to go to my residence. So at that day, I decided to leave my car at the parking lot and go home at foot. I don't usually leave my car there, but this is a special parking lot. So then, what is the logics? If this is 15 minutes walk from your residence, why did you need to take a car when you were not planning to drive back home? Response: this is simple. I didn't go there from my home. I was doing my work. Then I went to this parking lot. I left my car. I spent time with my friends, and I planned to go home on foot. We agreed to meet at a certain time. I didn't have time to go home, to leave the car near my home, to go on foot to the restaurant. So I left the car on the parking lot. Second question from Bogdan Romaniuk. You were defending yourself. You were saying that you were not guilty. So this was a second episode. You were not intoxicated at that time. So the police officers, judging by your words, they abused their power. They put you on the ground, the police officers, and you just forgave them. So did you just forgive those police officers? You didn't address the police in order to make evaluation, because those police officers exceeded their authority, because this is your dignity as a person, as a lawyer. If you were not guilty, they just laid you on the ground. Response: I understand. I notified about that. So when the administrative materials were considered by the court, when I had evidence about the abuse of power by the police officers, I initiated a relevant criminal case. It ended in there was no result. It was closed on formal grounds because, taking into account the fact, so the persons who decided to close the criminal proceeding, they decided that the protocol was only a statement of possible violation, and the final evaluation is given by a court. So the responsible persons decided that the protocol was not a violation. Romaniuk: well, we are lawyers. If a police officer abused his or her powers, authorities, they were wrong. Of course, even if they made some documents, but when they abused their authorities, they put you on the ground, they laid you on the ground, where you were not fighting them. They just laid you on the ground. So let us separate these two things. Response: I agree with you, but in order to react to these events, I was waiting for a court resolution according to the protocols of my non-cooperation, because I petitioned the court to investigate the video. Bogdan Romaniuk says that these are two separate events. Candidate says, I wanted to prove my statements by the evidence, and this has to be a court resolution. Romaniuk: these are two separate things. If a person is violating the traffic rules, This doesn't mean that the police officers can lay you on the ground. These are two separate events. Please take this into account. I'm also a lawyer. Don't respond in this way. I understand that you're trying to protect yourself. Response. And last question, rhetorical question from Mr. Romaniuk. I read your biography and your explanations. You have this entire system of coincidences. Everybody is attacking you again and again. The leadership of the prosecutor's office, the police is attacking you. Is this a system or are these mere coincidences? Could you specify? So you were detained several times with the suspicion. Well, of course, these are suspicions only that you were intoxicated and driving. So is this a system? This is not a single case. We have one case, another case, and then there was like a collision of a cars. So are these coincidences? Response. I explained you about the year 16, about the protocol in the year 16. I explained you about the second protocol in the year 17. I believe that they are not connected between each other. As for the traffic accident, Romaniuk, I'm just telling you, is this a pattern of behavior or what? Response, I don't see any connection between these events. As for the traffic accident, well, I believe that the vehicles have higher risk. I was rear-ended, not like it was described in the mass media. So I couldn't foresee this. I couldn't foresee this development of events. Romaniuk, so from the point of view of integrity, when you say that you told lies in order to stay at work, so if you are a lawyer, if you are an honest person, you need to fight. You need to use the honest tools. You have to use your honesty, not to go to compromise. You just explained that you wanted to stay at work. So what if tomorrow we have another situation on the position of SAPO, and then you say the same thing? All right, I need to stay at work. I need to forgive some things. So this explanation of yours, so how does it correlate with integrity as a lawyer and an honesty? Response, look, of course, this is your task to evaluate my integrity. I shouldn't be evaluating myself because I cannot be objective towards myself. As for subduing to pressure, yes, I agreed with that, and I was punished for that. And as for me, I didn't. Of course, this is a good experience for me. Right. So, of course, I had a similar situation. This situation was the first time in my life. This is not standard situation. I'm not sure that a lot of people have similar situation in their life when there was a provocation against you. So, as for my behavior in this situation, it is difficult to foresee things when this is happening for the first time. But today I have experience, I know how to react, I know how to behave. Katerina Koval, dear colleagues, let us vote to extend the time of the interview because we have exhausted the time. So do you mind? Or shall we proceed to discussion? Nona, do you have a question? Or... So let us vote, if you don't mind, because we need to extend the time just for the protocol. Thank you. Mr. Sobol. Any other questions, please? If you have no questions, can we proceed to the discussion? Please, dear Sergey Alexandrovich, wait outside.
Прошу
Let us have a discussion. Dear colleagues,
до обговорення, коментарі.
please, your comments. Andrei Gujal, you didn't ask anything. Any suggestions? Dear colleagues,
Богдан Васильович, мені здається, вже все сказав.
Kuibida, I think Bogdan Vasilyevich told everything, that this is not too long ago, and he showed himself as being dependent on his job. And it's difficult to say whether he would act in another way in the future. As for his honesty, the candidate confirmed that he provided untrue explanations. And also, I had a lot of other questions, but I don't see any sense in asking them.
Тому я дуже прошу колеги,
Katerina Koval, please, dear colleagues, if you are voting against, please make your comments for the protocol, because we need to make explanations in our decisions regarding the integrity. Please, Thomas.
Yes, for the protocol, then I agree with the comments of Roman Kubida and Mr. Romanyuk. He admitted that he provided untruthful answers. I continued to be troubled by that video where he seems to be fighting with the female police officer. It wasn't clear. His explanation to me as to what happened just was not clear. He said she started screaming and she was hiding the camera. It just wasn't clear to me what happened. I don't know what happened, but again, I just come back to the fact that we're talking about the highest anti-corruption position in the country. And I still have questions about him after the interview, so I will vote no.
Будь ласка, Нона.
Nona, please.
I have almost nothing to add, but for the administrative purposes, I just subscribe to everything what was mentioned previously. I don't think that, unfortunately, this is the candidate who can continue competition. So I have no other arguments. I totally share the ones that was already voiced. Thank you.
Будь ласка, Олена Ігорівна.
Please, Olena. I am concerned with this discussion. And of course, he is ready to do different things to protect himself. And after the interview, this is like a red line. Just to save himself, he agrees to do any actions. So I just imagined how he would be acting as the SAPO head, maybe in the same way.
Будь ласка, є ще коментарі?
Please, any other comments? Bogdan, Mr. Bogdan Romanyuk.
Богдан Васильович, ми слухаємо вас.
Я вмикаю мікрофон.
I'm just turning my microphone. So yes, I have told my opinion from the point of view of psychology. I was listening to the interview. It was just a clear defense, but of course, this is his right. But as for something convincing that would change our opinion about the events, which seem like a pattern, like a systematic events, he doesn't give convincing explanation. This is like a game. He went to the parking lot to take your car. If you go to the parking lot, why did you drink if you know that you have to go back? And also there was a resolution, the court resolution, but the time limitation expired. That's why he didn't file a cassation. Well, you are a lawyer. You have to fight for your dignity. You have to go for a cassation because this is your dignity. This doesn't concern the time limitations. Sometimes the time limitations are over, but the person goes to court to protect the dignity, to appeal against the decisions. If he was late on the ground, he is an officer of the prosecutor's office. He was late on the ground by the police so he is connecting with some investigation, but there was abuse of power from the police, or there was not abuse of power. Therefore, that's I wanted to say. The doubts are there. Thank you.
Дякую. Немає ще
Thank you.
коментарів?
Any other comments?
Ми можемо переходити до голосування.
Can we start voting?
Дякую. Таким чином,
Thank you.
конкурсної комісії з тим, що кандидат
Do the members of the Competition Commission agree that Yarovey Sergey Alexandrovich corresponds to the criterion of integrity according to the regulations and competitions for administrative positions in SAP? Show of hands, please.
Один голос за, пан Навроцький.
One vote for Mr. Navrotsky.
Рішення не прийнято.
Decision is not taken. Um,
дякую, ну, не можу працювати.
Thank you.
Шановний Сергій Олександрович, рішення відповідності кандидата критерії
Yes, Sergey Alexandrovich, decisions about your correspondence to the criterion of integrity didn't get enough votes. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Дякую, колеги. Нона, ви можете
Thank you very
працювати?
much, colleagues. Nona, will you stay for one more hour? You can, right? Thank you very much. So we can continue the interviews. Or you need interview, or you need a break for 5-10 minutes. What are the proposals? Maybe let's wait for Drago for 5-10 minutes, and we will start interview with his participation, right?
Давайте тоді 10 хвилин перерву.
Okay, 10 minutes break then, and we are waiting for Drago.
Да, перерву. Колеги, ми продовжуємо працювати.
Alex, shall we resume?
Я готовий.
I'm ready.
Юрійович, Нонна.
Nona, Evgeny Yurievich.
Перепрошуємо, колеги, за затримку.
Alex, sorry for delay. Let's continue. Olena Yurievna is not with us. Somewhere in the matrix was lost.
Олена Юрійовна, ви чуєте нас?
Olena Yurievna, can you hear us? Yes, I can.
Дякую.
Thank you. Good day.
Олена Юрійовна, ще раз хочу зрозуміти, ви чуєте нас?
Olena Yurievna, can you hear us? I can hear you, but there are some technical issues with camera, but we can start, right? Yes, you can. Let's continue processing the materials of the meeting. And now we would like to invite Yeremenok Roman Alexandrovich. Roman Alexandrovich, I would like to declare you the composition of the commission. Гуджин Андрій, Катерина Коваль, Навроцький Вячеслав, Роман Койбіда, Соболь Євген, Богдан Романюк, Драга Кост, Нона Цуцоря, and Olena Busol. Dear commission members, do you have any self-recusals?
Не надсилала інформацію. Шановний Роман Олександрович, є у вас відбор.
Dear Roman Alexandrovich, any recusals? None.
Ми проводимо засідання, третій етап конкурсу.
And we are the third stage of our competition, correspondence of the candidate to the criterion of integrity, property, way of life, political neutrality, and other integrity violations according to the regulations. Roman Alexandrovich was born in 1982, was not brought to criminal responsibility,
Правопорушення пов'язане з корупцією не притягувалося. Закінчено
was not brought to administrative responsibility connected to corruptions, was graduated from Yaroslav Mudry National Academy. From 2002 to 2006 worked in the prosecutor office of the city of Kremenchuk, Poltava region, assistant to the prosecutor 2006 to 2008, chief assistant to the prosecutor in Kremenchuk,
заступник прокурора.
prosecutor office of the Dubinsky district.
З 2010
If I say something wrong, please correct me. 2010 to 2015, Semenyevsky district prosecutor office in Poltava region. 2015,
прокуратура міста Полтави, старший прокурор
prosecutor's office of the city of Poltava, chief prosecutor since 2015, National Anti-Corruption Bureau, detective of NABU of the first unit of the detectives, after that detective of the third unit, after that the detective of the third detective one more time, from 2016 up till now, chief detective of NABU fourth department of the main department of detectives.
Роман Олександрович.
Dear Roman Alexandrovich, you can inform some additional information
І повідомити нам
on the candidate or inform us something. Yeah, I graduated Law Academy. After that, I started working in prosecutor's office in Poltava region. I was working on public prosecution director as assistant to prosecutor in 2006. I became chief assistant to prosecutor in the city of Kremenchuk and headed the group of support to public prosecution. of the most high-profile cases that were considered by this territorial court, and from 2008 to 2010, I was working on the position of the prosecutor in Poltava region as well, and was following the compliance to the law during pretrial investigation. From 2010 to 2015, I was working on the position of prosecutor of Semenivsky district in Poltava region. And when the law on NABU was adopted, and after that the competition started, I was very enthusiastic and I decided I should take a part in this competition and become the part of anti-corruption system. And I became one of the detectives upon the result of the competition 2015, and now I work in NABU. And I made pretrial investigation, chief detective of the group of detectives, criminal proceedings. Most of them were sent to the court. Now some of them are in the court. For instance, criminal proceedings on the fact of selling property belonging by the state with the huge material damage is in the court at the moment. Now it is in the court. Also in a few criminal proceedings, now it is acquaintance with the pretrial investigation. After that, all these proceedings will be sent into the court on my motives to take part in this competition. For the time being, SAPO, for almost a year already, is without a head. And according to legislation, they cannot take procedural decision as only the head could take this decision. And due to the absence of the head of SAPO, this fact doesn't allow pretrial investigation to be efficient, as the procedure itself and the time to take procedural decisions is much more complicated at the moment. And there are a lot of procedural delays due to that. I have a significant experience working in the prosecution service and also in anti-corruption authorities. I have a lot of experience in public prosecution. That's why I decided to participate in a competition for head and deputy head of SAPO. As for me, as for the direct participant for someone who takes active part in anti-corruption struggle is very important. There is a lot of pain for me in this issue, and I think that appointment of the head of SAPO is the most important at the moment. Thank you, Roman Alexandrovich. We have materials of special verification from NABU, from NAPS. Also, questionnaire was sent to you. Also, you've been through polygraph study. I have a few questions. Well, you probably know that I'm asking about awards during your service, and also I'm asking questions on bringing you to responsibility. And we have information that according to the materials of General Inspectorate, in 2009, you had reprimand, you were reprimanded. And as the materials were not sent to the court and the materials were not checked, and the answers were not sent to the interested parties, and also there is information that your second reprimand was for improper execution of your duties of the orders of general prosecutor. Could you please explain? It's 2011, 2012, that's what we have in your file. Unfortunately, the legislation we had at the moment had no guarantees against bringing the prosecutor to the responsibility. Only in 2014, in the law on prosecution service, that section about bringing the prosecutor to the responsibility was introduced. At that moment, when I was brought to disciplinary responsibility, in legislation, there was no possibility for me to get acquainted with the materials of verification. And I could just appeal it in the petition to General Prosecutor. In 2009, I was brought to disciplinary responsibility for events that allegedly happened in 2015. I had no right to get in 2005. I had no right to get acquainted with those materials. I couldn't provide any explanations as I was not get acquainted with the material. And on this issue, to bring it in responsibility, as from the moment of these events, I was brought to disciplinary responsibility. More than 4 years passed. It was the only one way that time to bring the prosecutor to disciplinary responsibility. Regarding the events of 2011, I was working as district prosecutor for a year already. I had one of my direct managers at that time and after that, I started getting a lot of negative feedbacks from everywhere, and I was brought to disciplinary responsibility by the way of comparing mathematical indicators for my work this year and last year. And after this head was moved to another region, my indicators improved a lot, don't know why. And I was even awarded for high performance indicators in my work for completely contrary things to 2011. Maybe you made some conclusions, you started working better. No, it wasn't the thing. That concrete manager wanted to show that he had enough power to spoil my life. Thank you very much, Roman Alexandrovich. Another question. According to information on the income of your wife, we can make a conclusion that you worked together in the prosecutor office in Poltava region. After that, you went to work in Nabu together as well. And you're not the first candidate with a partner working in Nabu as well in different positions. So what do you think about conflict of interest in this case, as both of you are working in Nabu? And could you please explain, how does it happen? You transferred to Nabu and how your wife was transferred. What is the mechanism of that transfer of the couple? It wasn't a transfer. You can get a job only upon the results of the competition. Your wife had a competition, right? Yes, she did in 2015. On the 2nd of September, I was appointed to the position of the detective in NABU. And we took a decision that we will move to Kyiv as a family. And she was appointed to the position of specialist in public relations department, the department that considers petitions from the public. And my wife passed the competition successfully and was appointed to the position of the chief specialist of this department. At the moment, she takes the position of the deputy head of this department, acceptance and processing of the hotline requests. Regarding conflict of interests, we do not have any kind of conflict of interest as we work in different departments. And actively electing legislations and the internal documents of NABU make the conflict of interest impossible, and any kind of overlapping of personal interests is not possible. Thank you. Another question, Roman Alexandrovich. According to the information from your file from the Register of National Register of Lawyers, you started your internship at the lawyer Yefanova. Yes, Natalia Anatolievna, as far as I understood, you took an exam for a lawyer, and you are in the process of internship, right? Yeah, I'm still in the process of internship. In September, it will be completed. Would you please tell us where did you take an exam and why you, being an employee of NABU, went there? And could you please tell me about your internship? Yes, sure. My exam was in the Council of Lawyers in the city of Kyiv. That's where I register. That's where I live. And internship is in Kyiv region. As my documents during a long time were without any movements in the city of Kyiv, so I decided to go to the Bar Association of the Kyiv region, as it is allowed by the norms and standards of bar activities. And at the moment, I'm in the middle of my internship. I do it when I do not work in NABU. I work with documents mainly. And I'm talking to the head of internship in my spare time. And when I was selecting the head of internship, on purpose, the one who I didn't met in my practical activities, she works in criminal justice. So I have a questions regarding your internship. Probably it's not about correspondence of the candidate to criterion of integrity, but you as an employee of NABU. There is a law about bar activities, and there is another procedure that is foreseen by the law, internship. Could you please tell us, according to the labor code, is your internship, in what way it's going on? Shouldn't you be employed as a lawyer to get salary, to pay single payment? No, I shouldn't. I should pay for my internship myself according to the standard documents on bar activities, and I'm paying for that. Why I'm asking you, as NABU employee, experienced prosecutor, you paid for internship to the association that doesn't have license for educational activities. You, as employee of NABU, probably you could see there some questions to organizations where you have your internship. You paid this service. Did you declare these expenses? No, I didn't declare these expenses, as the total amount of them do not exceed the amount I should declare. As far as I remember, total amount is something like 12,000 grivna. That is a payment to the lawyer, payment to the register. I'm not ready to give you exact amount. At the moment, I shouldn't declare this kind of expenses. But my question on internship, probably you think that you should be employed at the lawyer to pass the internship according to the labor code. No, I do not think so. I'm employed already. And thousands of people get lawyer certificate every year. And they have internship at the lawyers. No, but when you tell that you do it in the spare time, when you do it, I have time before I start working and after. I work according to our labor code at 6 p.m. I finish my work, and after that I can do whatever I want. Are you planning to get a certificate? Yes, I'm planning to get a certificate. And it will depend on the results of the competitions as well. Another question. According to the NABU certificate, you have 4 plots of land, but in declarations there's information just about 2 of them. I understand that we had some questions from civil society organizations. That's why I want them to answer, to get an answer. You know, I was surprised that I'm an owner of 4 plots of land. I do not have 4 plots of land. During special verification and get information from National Agency on Corruption Prevention, I referred to the corresponding petitions to the state cadastre, to the state land register, and it was a mistake by the registrator about my ownership of this plot of land. There are plots of land neighboring to the ones that I own, the ones I declare starting from 2009. For the time being, on my petition, those records from state land register and their ownership rights were eliminated, and I would like to say that in the state land register, besides register number and that I'm an owner of them, there were no any other information that should be put there. Technical documentation was not developed. There was no any other information. Probably it was just a mistake of someone who registered them. Thank you. Any other questions, colleagues? I have a question. Maybe you'll have conflict of interest if you become the head of the competition as your wife works in NABU, and you will become prosecutor who is doing surveillance of pretrial investigations. And your wife will be subordinate to the head, and you should make the surveillance on this head. How are you going to eliminate that? I cannot see conflict of interest. As I explained already, my wife is a deputy head of the department of the call center, so-called call center. It is responsible for requests that we get on our hotline. And she has a direct manager, she has a manager of the directorate, and this manager of the directorate, he's reporting to one of the deputy head of National Anti-Corruption Bureau. And he is not involved into pretrial investigations at all. And according to the Criminal Procedure Code and the documents of NABU, the head of pretrial investigation department, the highest that we have, is the head of the main directorate of detectives, not the detective. Detective is not the head of pretrial investigation units. So you cannot see conflict of interest, right? No. So it's through your wife. It won't be any pressure put on you. No, it won't. And yes, I think there won't be any conflict of interest. And also in the current legislation, there are a lot of mechanisms how to do it. How did it happen that you became the owner of 2 plots of land? And who is the real owner of them? These are reserve lands. They are in the village council. They are not owned by everyone. There was no any decisions on these plots of land. That was just a mistake of the land registrator. All the documents you can find in my explanations, they're attached. Any other questions, colleagues? I wanted to ask you regarding criminal proceedings against you, and did you have any searches in your premises? Well, that's a long story. Let me start from the very beginning. In February 2016, I started criminal proceeding on the fact of state or of damage in the state fund for 2015 million hryvnia, and it was checked by the head of General Prosecutor's Office. He's the head of the units of the General Prosecutor's Office of the Kyiv region. At the beginning of the trial investigations, I had threats from the management of General Prosecutor's Office, and it was reflected in the internal documents that you can find in these criminal proceedings. And I knew later that in April 2016, General Prosecutor Office started criminal proceeding on that fact, as according to the Criminal Procedural Code that we had at the moment, it was possible. And in August 2016, there was a search in NABU on the investigation of this criminal in NABU, right? Yes, straight in NABU, not at my home. No, I didn't have search at my home. It was in NABU premises. And 2 weeks after the search, and do you have this kind of search in NABU often? No, it was the only one search in NABU for all the time of its existence. And the general prosecutors that we had at the moment told us that they had facts of crime, but after that search, after interrogation, there were no actions done. And the decision, I don't know the decision on this criminal proceeding, but I decided to think that it was just execution of the threats that I received earlier. As I was informed, that is going to be a strong reaction on that. I would like to precise, you do not know how this criminal proceeding finished? No, that, or your criminal proceedings. No, that criminal proceedings I was investigating was sent to the court. You know, when just prosecutors send me, I do not know, I'm not interested, it's not true. How did it finish that proceedings, in process of which there was a search? I do not know. Did they have?
Це негласні розшукові слідчі дії.
I didn't know. Did they have any covered search operative actions on me?
Думаю, що скоріш за все проводились негласні слідчі дії.
Most probably they did have these covered operations.
Але після проведення обшуку і
But after the search, after I was interrogated as a witness, you know, I've never heard about that criminal proceedings. You are not interested, right? I was interested. I checked it in the register of trial of ruling. I was looking for rulings on them. Probably there was investigation. No, the last ruling was in 2016 about temporary access. And that's it. I mean that if there are some actions against you, no, no, it was not declared to me about suspicion. Probably there are some investigative actions are going on me, probably in some other criminal or in some other proceeding.
ймовірність якоїсь тиску і в такий спосіб не можна
There is a possibility
працівників
to put pressure on the employees of NABU in this way, on the employees of prosecutor's office as well. There were such facts before, and I'm sure there will be in the future, but I do not know about these facts. I think that the proceeding was closed
який здійснював кримінальне провадження, здійснює та й досудове розслідування вже органи прокуратури з 2019 року.
because, you know, from 2019 they already don't have this kind of investigation, and the chairperson is saying, and the general prosecutor changed. Yes, candidate is saying twice. Any other questions? Let me start. Dear Roman Alexandrovich, during our competitions for integrity identification, one of the candidates to the questions of did you have proposals about a legal benefit, he said that they come with these proposals only to people who are positioned themselves this way, and other candidate to the same question told there is no one prosecutor who wasn't offered a legal benefit at least once. What do you think about this question? Because as we can see, the opinions are very different on that.
Я скажу так, що особа, займаючи відповідне становище,
Well, you know, when you take some certain position, such possibilities should be avoided. I mean, some extra procedural contacts that give possibility to offer a legal benefit. There shouldn't be any undesired meetings. The conversation should be made in such a way to let understand your opponent that the questions about the legal benefits are out of conversation. I understand that it can be different moments in the activities of prosecutor, and there are the possible offering of a legal benefit. But at the moment, criminal procedure law says that there is a very clear algorithm in what way officials should do in case of offering a legal benefit. That's why, even if these facts exist, There is an algorithm what officials should do. You personal, did you have such offerings? On the polygraph study, I told about one case. I remembered it, but it was a long time ago. And also remembered another case. I refused from a legal benefit, but it was very strange situation, and it was a long time ago. Thank you very much for your response.
Будь ласка, в кого ще є запитання, колеги?
Any other questions, colleagues?
Немає запитань?
No questions? I have. Vyacheslav was the first.
Будь ласка, чи маєте ви близьких родичів за кордоном?
Do you have close relatives abroad? No, I don't.
Дякую.
Thank you.
Будь ласка, Драго,
Drago then,
далі. А потім Роман Олексій.
and then Roman.
Thank you. So the question on the photo, we could see you with the medal and it says Spartan. What is that?
Я займаюся забігами з перешкодами.
I'm running with obstacles.
Займаюся спортом, це називається
I'm do sports,
забіги з перешкодами.
it's run with barriers, obstacles, and that's like my sports achievement.
У мене є там.
Okay,
Well,
so
I have a few.
На сьогоднішній день лише одне. Але я треную.
I have just one first place, but I keep on training.
Є ще запитання, Драго?
Any other questions, Drago?
yeah, the reason why I ask this is, so you work for NABO, you're intern as a lawyer, and you're practicing running. So how do you manage all of this? Plus, you're married. How do you manage all of this?
У мене тренування займають приблизно до 1 години в день.
Training take 1 hour a day maximum, and not every day. I have a trainer that's online trainer. He gives me training program. Well, I should manage what to do. The life is brief. Life is short.
What time you're getting up in the morning?
Say that again, please.
What time do you get up in the morning to finish all of this?
О 6.
At 6. At 6. Every morning at 6 a.m.
Okay, thank you. No questions.
Всі запитання, Драго? Дякую. Будь ласка, Роман
Thank
Олексій.
you. Yes, Roman.
Скажіть, будь ласка, от в письмових поясненнях ви написали...
In your written explanations, you wrote about that unfair situation on your view, disciplinary punishment, and you said that there were no other mechanism. Could you please explain it one more time? Yes, as I explained it already, before 2014, there was a law of Ukraine on prosecution service from 1991 and disciplinary institute of prosecution service, and the only one mechanism of appeal of disciplinary punishment was the petition to general prosecutor. That time it wasn't real because I should be fired first, and after that to appeal it.
Працювати далі, тоді це було фактично неможливо.
That time it was almost impossible.
Після цього вже був прийнятий
After that, a new law was adopted on the prosecution service,
кваліфікаційна дисциплінарна комісія прокуратури, можливість оскарження.
and there was a possibility to go to the qualification disciplinary commission of prosecutors to appeal them. So legislator told about possibility of bringing to responsibility with the aim to provide independence. And what about norms of constitution?
На той час Вищої ради юстиції, так,
That time,
перегляду рішень про притягнення до дисциплінарної відповідальності.
High Supreme Council. I'm not ready to answer that question.
Щодо перегляду дисциплінарної відповідальності
I do not know about how Higher Council of Justice treats these cases.
Дякую, питань немає.
Thank you, no questions.
Sorry, just a question for for Victoria. Did he say
Yes.
he doesn't want, or he doesn't know how to answer the question?
Я не готовий, я не
I'm
знаю.
not ready. I don't know.
Uh-huh.
I don't know if there was such a possibility.
Okay, thank you.
Скажіть, будь ласка, от ви спортсмен.
Tell us, please, you are an athlete. You are also now in the course of internship. You also have your job duties. How do you manage?
Скільки ви цих кримінальних проваджень?
How many criminal proceedings you sent to the court, and do you have any rulings already? For the time being, I sent to the court as a chief prosecutor just one criminal proceeding. Two criminal proceedings are on the stage of getting acquainted with materials, and also there is a number of criminal proceedings sent to the court by the group of detectives where I'm a part of the group. The criminal proceedings that I sent as a chief in the group of prosecutors, there are no rulings yet, as it was sent to the court in 2017. It was considered by 3 courts. And after creating of the High Anti-Corruption Court, it was sent to the High Anti-Corruption Court, and they started considering it from the very beginning. And for the time being, it is still there.
А оці кримінальні провадження, які це багато.
These criminal proceedings, they were complicated. There was some organized criminal groups as you work from 2015, right? Yes, from 2015. We started pre-trial investigation in 2000.
Керівництва спеціалізованої антикорупційної прокуратури.
Appointed to NABU. But there were a lot of episodes there. Mainly, there are criminal proceedings connected to economic affairs. And there were a lot of investigative and procedural activities. There were 102 volumes of that criminal proceeding. And there was a number of experts studies and a lot of conclusions. And what about recompensation of damage? Is it provided the property is under arrest at the moment? Roman Alexandrovich, regarding your trips abroad, could you please tell us that were business trips or rest? And if there were business trips, why? Because, you know, the part of NABU employees very often go abroad, and part of them do not go abroad at all, according to the orders. I would like to understand. You've been to a business trip for a few times, right? Mainly Belarus. Belarus border. What was it? That's because I crossed the border of Belarus by air. I've been in business trip abroad once in 2016 in November, I think. I was sent to the Academy of Public Governance in Warsaw. During a week, there was a training, and I got acquainted with the work of Anti-Corruption Bureau in Poland. It was joint training for NABU employees and National Agency on Corruption Prevention. And that was my only one business trip abroad. Thank you. Any other questions, colleagues? Yes, Bogdan Vasilyevich.
Шановний Роман Олександрович,
Dear Roman Alexandrovich,
ми сьогодні ведемо мову про
today
таку категорію, як доброчесність.
we are discussing such an issue as integrity. Integrity is a moral, ethical component of the human being. Is it connected to the violation of the ethical norms or moral norms or legal norms?
Ви говорите
That's why when you are saying about that you were brought to disciplinary responsibility twice
безпринципно там боялися,
and you were afraid there in one case, and in another case there was no one to appeal it. You know, I will tell you more. I was working as an investigator for many years, and we could appeal the activities of our managers even to the prosecutor who was subordinate to us, because it was our instinct, because we felt that that is the ethical behavior in such cases. And we could also appeal to the general prosecutor, to the deputy general prosecutor. Well, sometimes they were not supported, but what?
таке пояснення, воно мені каже,
So, you know, I do not really believe your explanation. I think that you should have stronger principles. Why I'm asking that? These two punishments are for the activities that you will need to do in the future when you will move to SAPO. Bogdan Vasilyevich, I haven't said that I was afraid to appeal something. I didn't see any sense to do it. But, you know, for your clear consciousness, you should do it according to a law. And after that, let this sin would go to the souls of those who decided. That's how I did it in my own example. And also you explained that prohibition to work for that the wife can work in the same organization as a husband. Well, probably yes, but still, you know that family situation is not very favorable as well. I think that here's also some moral, ethical component of the person who is taking such a position in state institution. Yeah, I understand it's not prohibited, but today we are talking about integrity. What do you think about it from this point of view? Or maybe I'm mistaken. Bogdan Vasilyevich, you are mistaken, as we have a huge organization, 700 people work there. We are kind of central authority, and I do not see my wife at all in my job duties, and I shall not see her. Could you imagine if the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, for instance, husband and wife work? You won't say that, right? I do not remember that. Well, let's imagine someone works in the district department and another one in central office. I cannot see any prohibitions of moral norms or some other norms. If we work together in NABU, I do not think that some violations should follow. No, that's not what I meant. There is no prohibition to do that. But also there is no violation of moral or ethical norms and standards. My wife decided that she should move to Kyiv. She decided to take part in competition. She decided to work in NABU. Okay, welcome. She can do it. We do not bother each other in our work duties. We do not have any kind of potential conflict, real conflict of interest. She's just busy with her job duties. I'm busy with mine. Yeah, I understand because I worked a lot on different stages of state institutions. And when wife works in the same organization with husband, it's just wrong, you know. But that's your position. That is fine. And I have a third question as well. We've already started it, but let's continue on that. You said that just one criminal proceeding in 5 years was sent to the court, but you found time for internship, for your hobby. Well, probably I have some outdated principles, but when we were working, we had no time to do all that. Well, maybe I'm wrong. Bogdan Vasilyevich, one case was sent by me as a chief detective of the group of detectives. And I investigated it from 2016 for 1 year and a half. It was a pretrial investigation in this criminal proceeding. Then there was also a number of criminal proceedings that we sent together with colleagues, small groups of detectives. I wasn't a chief detective that time, but we are finishing them and sent them to the court. How many volumes there were in the one that you sent? 102 volumes. And now I have 2 proceedings that are on the completion stage already. Now the suspects get acquainted with it, and after that they will be sent to the court as well. Thank you, thank you. Alex, any other questions? Yes, I have a question. National NABU awarded you, right? Once. What for? For this, for sending this one criminal proceeding to the court? Most probably, yes. Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Mrs. Nona, Mrs. Busel. Can we start discussing?
Роман Олександрович так прискіпливо до
Roman Alexandrovich, why we ask so many questions about your wife working in the same organization? Because we were investigating your file and we found materials where the name of the wife was changed in the declaration, not to show that they work in one institution. You know, we found it out during the break. That's why we are so attentive to that issue. You cannot call Victoria Olena just not to show that you work together in one institution. I had no grounds to do that in my case. I do not want you to name as a candidate. We have this kind of situation, but when husband and wife work in one organization, I think there are some issues on that. Well, let's stop discussing then. Roman Alexandrovich, could you please wait behind the doors?
які будуть пропозиції, колеги?
Any proposals, colleagues?
Немає пропозицій під час обговорення, зауважень?
Any proposals, remarks, anything? Can we start voting?
Що, ніхто нічого не хоче сказати?
No one wants to speak? Can you hear us?
Всі чують?
You all
Yes.
can hear us, right? There is a connection. Yes, we can. Yes, all good. Everyone is just silent.
Ну, я висловлюсь.
Well, I will speak up then.
Чесно кажучи,
Honestly saying,
спочатку був налаштований підтримати кандидата.
you know, from the very beginning, I would like to support the candidate, but After getting acquainted with the materials, after hearing the answers of the candidate, unfortunately, I cannot support the candidate, taking into account the whole number of issues. First of all, the candidate was brought to administrative responsibility. What for? For improper execution of duties, and his duties are to send criminal proceeding into the court. In other words, it means that these people were not brought to the criminal responsibility defined by the law because of the indictment was not sent. That's based on the general inspection materials. And what we can say about such actions of the prosecutor? Are they integral? I think they're not integral, as in fact, that's like helping the people to avoid criminal responsibility also. Only one criminal proceeding was sent to the court during all period of service of the candidate as the person who should become the head. He should set an example that I'm a specialist to set a personal example. Is it the same person? I'm not sure. I'm not ready to be responsible that this person can bring something good into institution. Also take into consideration other materials. I do not support the candidate, unfortunately.
This is my position. Andrei Gudjal. I also don't understand. So the candidate says that he doesn't have conflict of interest with his wife, but he didn't answer my question how he will be eliminated the conflict of interest, because if he is elected, his wife will be in direct subordination in the agency, which he will have to supervise, he will have to do procedural guidance and ensure the lawfulness. So I will not support the candidate. Drago, please.
Well, just some clarification on the conflict of interest issue. You know, his wife is working in the department which is receiving anonymous calls on the telephone with reports on possible corruption. I'm
talking about the potential conflict of interest. I'm sorry, Drago, could you repeat because the last words?
I'm saying his wife is working in the department of NABO. This is what he said, which is dealing with accepting reports on corruption. So she is not engaged in pre-trial investigations, so she is not writing indictments to SAPO. So, and even if that would be the case, it is not the head of SAPO who is deciding on indictments, but individual prosecutors under his command. So this is far from being a conflict of interest, only so much.
Дозвольте, скажу
Два
слова. Чи чути мене?
Few words.
Бо в мене просто зв'язок зникав.
Because I have some connection problems, but during the discussion I lost some things because of technical issues. I didn't hear everything. I can tell that I haven't seen any big issues, but I have some concerns about his answers, about appellation mechanisms. He says that they are not efficient, but he doesn't name them. So they are provided for by the Constitution. The Constitution says so prosecutors can appeal against the decision on the disciplinary responsibility now to the High Council of Justice. And
я не бачив, що
but I don't see a lot of use of this institution. I haven't been following this institution anyway. I don't know if this concerns the integrity or the competence of the candidate. I understand that he was brought to disciplinary responsibility a long time ago, but that the decision was taken in 4 years after the commission of this disciplinary violation. Maybe there was really the problem of justice of the procedure. But if the candidate didn't appeal against it, this surprises me.
кажу, що не визначився я щодо цього.
I haven't yet determined whether I will support him or not.
Те, що людина в результаті мова йде
Well,
згідно
Андрій Гуджал,
провадження,
according to the disciplinary proceedings,
бездіяльності прокурора,
they were long, but as a result of inactivity of the prosecutors, the proceedings were not referred to court.
фактично це уникнення кримінальної
This is like avoiding criminal responsibility by people. And then it is not clear what happened later with the criminal proceedings. Roman Kuibida, I read the explanations of the candidate. There is some logic in his words, but unfortunately, we can't find a solution to balance these positions.
Ну і кандидат майже
Катерина Коваль. The candidate at the same time made applications about his internship as a lawyer and to the competition to the SAPO. We didn't ask him where he wants to go more. Would he rather become a lawyer, stay in the NABU, or go to SAPO? Therefore, dear colleagues, can we proceed to voting? Do you have any comments? Yevgen Sobol.
можемо переходити до голосування, чи є коментарі?
Can we proceed to voting?
Немає коментарів у вас?
No comments.
Богдан Васильович, я просто переживаю, чи ви чуєте нас?
Bogdan, please.
Я хочу сказати,
Bogdan Romanюк.
це вже не перший
I would like to say that this is not the first time when we have this question
притягнули
that he was brought to responsibility, the time limitations ended. This is not the essence of the violation. So the superiors are to blame that they protracted the time, or the court closed the case. We shouldn't take this into account. This was the fault of the court, and then it was the fault of his superior. We have to take into account whether he committed a violation or not. Well, he was not brought, for example, the previous candidate was not brought to responsibility, or this candidate was brought to responsibility in a wrong way. So what is the mistake? What is the essence, the merit of the case? Was this the time limitation, or did he commit the violation? Roman Kuibida, if we look at his explanations carefully, he says that in this case, nobody gave him even the materials of the disciplinary proceeding.
І це відбулося через
And
4
this happened in 4 years, and he doesn't even know. I will read it. I will quote it. Just a second.
що
Just a second. I was brought to disciplinary responsibility for allegedly loss of official documents that were later found in unknown circumstances.
на момент притягнення мене до
At the moment when I was taken to responsibility, I had been working in another prosecutor's office in the same region on different positions. Nobody gave me the materials that were the basis for bringing me to responsibility. Romanyuk, if he has those facts, he had to appeal this decision. He had to say that it was unlawful. Andriy Gujal, I will tell you, if a prosecutor loses documents, this is a very serious violation. Moreover, in some cases, criminal cases are started against prosecutors. If a prosecutor leaves some documents in a car, then if the documents are stolen from a prosecutors, these are very serious things. Romaniuk, Kuibida. So where documents lost,
Прокурору, то він під них
the
розписується.
materials are given to the prosecutor. He has to sign off. He has to put his signature if he takes the documents. These are not free access documents. You don't take them from your postal box. The prosecutor, if he takes a document, he has to sign about acceptance. That's why he was brought to responsibility. If he didn't sign, he wouldn't have been taken to responsibility. So Roman Alexandrovich doesn't know how it ended, how the search in his room ended. Gujal. As for this, I would like to defend the candidate in this aspect. I would say if a person is doing a good job, of course, these things can happen. Of course, somebody would be trying to hinder his activities. Different parties can do this. Today, the Criminal Procedure Code makes it possible for anyone to make an application to discredit the prosecutor. Yes, this is a process. So if he was taken to questioning, if there were searches done in his room, I don't see anything wrong about that. If a person is doing a good job, of course, there are the opposing parties, but another case is loss of materials, loss of documents. For me, this is serious. And we also have questions to the proper declaring. Yes, the candidate provided some explanations. Romaniuk, I'm in favor of the candidate. I didn't ask him about the case, about the facts, because it has to be proven. In this aspect, I support him, but I have other questions about the moral and ethical sides. He knows that he was brought to responsibility in an illegal way. He need to appeal, not just accept the punishment. What about his principal position? Will he have a principal position in this job? I have doubts about that. So I'm guided by the doubts because we have it in our regulations. Katarina Koval, Bogdan Vasilyevich, you are always reminding us about the doubts. So let us proceed to voting. Draft resolution where the commission members agree that the candidate, Mr. Yaromenok Roman Alexandrovich, corresponds to the criteria of integrity according to the requirements of the commission, to the requirements of the regulation. Please vote.
Голоса за віддали.
Olena Busol. In favor, Koval, Nona Tsotoria, Drago Kos, Roman Kuibida, Navrotsky, and Mr. Sobol.
Рішення не прийнято.
A decision was not approved.
У нас залишилось, колеги, два кандидати.
Katerina Koval, we have two candidates left. One of them is not able to come. Mr. Formagay said that he has high temperature, so he was not answering phone calls. Then we sent him a letter, and he says that he has high temperature. I'm sorry, Roman Alexandrovich, the decision on the resolution did not gain enough votes. Candidate, I just want to take my documents and go. Katarina Koval, yes, I have to announce this decision. Goodbye. Katarina Koval, we have finished our interviews today. The 5th of July, we have interview with Mr. Taras Щербай because of his holiday leave. And we were deciding to postpone Mr. Formagay to the 5th of July. However, he is not able to participate because he is ill. So we need to make a decision. So after he says that he is able to participate, we need to make a 5-day notification to him for the interview. And on the 5th of July, we will discuss the draft resolution, which is in our chat. We will need to approve the procedure of the practical task. Please review carefully the draft resolutions. So we have at 5 o'clock in the evening on 5th of July, we will have next meeting. Mr. Sobol, will you be able to participate? Mr. Sobol cannot participate. So can everybody participate? Because if Mr. Sobol cannot participate, we need to have quorum. Olena Busol can. Katarina Koval, please try your best because Mr. Щербай will be interviewed on the additional day. So 5 o'clock on the 5th of July. Andrei Gujal, please pay attention that we have a situation. Our methodology for evaluating the practical task says that we need to have all the commission members, everyone. This is how it says. Katarina Koval. So we will postpone the issue on amendments to the regulation and approval of the procedure of the practical task to the 5th of July. Therefore, please, Roman Koibida, regarding this illness, I really wish the candidate quick recovery, but it seems to me if we move forward and he will not be able to participate, we cannot just suspend the competition because of candidate's illness. I hope he will recover quickly, but the competition is like a train. If you don't manage to board the train has to go on. Katarina Koval, we have made this decision. We postponed his interview to the 5th of July. So Mr. Formagay is scheduled for the 5th of July. Today, we didn't make amendments to the regulation. If he says that he can't participate, maybe until the 5th of July, the situation will change. Maybe he will be able to participate, but we will be waiting for additional information from Mr. Formagay. So we cannot violate the rights of the candidate. We need to appoint him a time for the interview, but on the other end, we cannot protract the competition because we will be accused of protracting. Roman Koibida, we can't violate the rights of the candidate, but we can't prolong the competition again and again. We made him one possibility to postpone. Maybe we will give him another opportunity, but we can't do it again and again until the candidate will be ready. Katarina Koval, we were discussing this, so some commission members suggest, so if he doesn't come up on the 5th, he will stop participating, but I don't want any appeals against our decisions. I believe that we have time. We are preparing the written tasks. We are preparing the competition. On the 5th of July, we will approve amendments. We will approve regulation. We will approve the algorithm of the written task. We will give him maybe another period of time. I wish him a very good recovery, quick recovery. If we need to amend the regulation to make it possible for him to participate online, we can even allow him to participate online in Zoom, the interview, but we can't stop the competition. On the other hand, I don't want a court claim from him if he claims against the procedure. Kuibida, we are not violating anything. We have created all the possibilities for him. He doesn't come to the interview, and we shouldn't be too concerned too much. Katarina Koval, I don't know whether the certificate is enough. What medical certificate do we need? We need to think until Monday what evidence we can use to confirm that he is on a sick leave. Kuibida. For us, it is important whether he appeared or not. Of course, there is a procedure of attestation. He has to be provided the possibility to participate in the attestation. But here we have the competition. For example, if they have sports competition, nobody is stopping sports competitions if one of the participants is ill and can't participate. Katarina Koval, I hope that this is not an abuse from the candidate because he is asking us to provide some documents. We are preparing a response to him. He has written a letter to us. So right now we have a letter exchange. Please, Vyacheslav Navrotsky. We have the 5th and the 6th of July as additional days. So maybe candidate will be able to participate on the 6th of July. Katarina Koval, yes, we will offer him. Today we communicated, he didn't pick up the phone. We sent him an email, and after, in the second part of the day, he answered that he cannot participate. So Drago says he needs to go to an airport. He offers to discuss. Happy journey, Dragos. Thank you for participation. All right, goodbye. We will be trying our best. Goodbye.
Record.